Eli Lilly thinks you're poor, the FDA has hit rock bottom, and surprise, Ozempic won't cure your Alzheimer's. It's December 2025, and this is big drama in Big Pharma. What's up, nerds? I'm Matty C, and I make videos on all things drug discovery. Though I usually make videos on the minutiae of academic and technical papers, but recently Big Pharma has been getting active, and you all deserve to know what's going on. These days it almost feels like the people at the top of Big Pharma are just randomly throwing darts at a board. And not in like a going to watch Luke Lillard at the pub with the boys type of way, but more in like the how is an anti-vaxxer heading the FDA, and also how come a single company is worth more than the GDP of Switzerland type way. For example, the FDA is speedrunning their way to being the most dysfunctional health regulatory agency in the entire world, which is hilarious because in my last video I was singing their praises for hiring this man, Dr. Richard Pazdur, for becoming the new director of the Center for Drug Evaluation and Research. On November 11th, after a year of turmoil, the FDA chose the safest possible choice to lead the division that's in charge of approving new pharmaceuticals. Seriously, many experts said that he was the best possible choice for the job, since he was the head of the FDA's oncology division since 2017, and he streamlined many oncology approvals while maintaining a thorough and data-driven approval process. See? The safe choice. Like ordering 0 chilies at an Indian restaurant. But on December 2nd, Richard Pazdur retired from the FDA, just 3 weeks after taking on his new role. Like, excuse me, sir, you just got to the party and you haven't even spun the bottle yet. So here's where things get 3 chilies. Anonymous sources said that Pazdur has been butting heads with his boss, FDA Commissioner Marty Makary. This came after Pazdur criticized Makary's National Priority Voucher Program, which is a new system that can reduce the drug review time from 10 months to less than 2 months. On the surface, this might sound good. Faster reviews means more life-saving treatments to the public, but it takes a while to thoroughly review a pharma company's application. Things like efficacy, manufacturing quality and control protocols, safety data, you know, the boring stuff that keeps people from dying. But reviewing all of this in 1 or 2 months sounds optimistic at best, incredibly unreliable at worst. Additionally, other lawmakers and experts have joined Dr. Pazdur in slamming this priority voucher for being a tool for political favoritism. Companies can only receive these vouchers if their drug aligns with critical U.S. national health priorities, which, as of now, translates to companies who have made a deal to support Trump's upcoming prescription drug platform and or those who feed into highly politicized health issues. On this note, Dr. Pazdur has scolded his boss for leaving scientific experts out of these discussions around politicized health issues, thus leaving them out of providing necessary data-driven context. I don't know about you guys, but when the most obvious, most stable choice for a certain role says, "Fuck this, I'm leaving," doesn't look great. So who's replacing him? Who is going to be the 5th CDER Director in the span of less than a year? Dr. Pazdur's replacement was just announced to be Dr. Tracy Beth Hogue, who's a known vaccine skeptic. Hilariously, when she was appointed as CDER Director, she claimed that she'll make decisions based on rigorous science, then immediately turn around and claim that the COVID vaccine directly caused 10 childhood mortalities. And this was based on a self-reporting system that used absolutely zero scientific rigor. Guys, you cannot make this shit up. We have to be living in an episode of South Park or something. All of this just adds to the absolute dumpster fire that is the FDA right now. Mass layoffs, toxic work environments, deliberately spreading misinformation. Dr. Pazdur has been around the block for a long time. He knows what is good FDA and what is bad FDA. And clearly these politically charged programs to artificially speed up the drug approval process is bad FDA. And let's not forget that up until this point, he spent his whole career trying to make the drug approval process faster. His vision of a good FDA is also a fast FDA, but his vision is based off of data and the scientific method, something that clearly this current iteration of the FDA does not care about. And I understand there is some bullshit in Big Pharma, but the point of the FDA is to sniff out this bullshit with the scientific method by respecting science. But that is going to be impossible when the FDA is peddling their own bullshit. But what do you think? Is there any hope for the FDA? Was there ever any hope for the FDA? Let me know down below. Let's hit pause on the FDA drama for a second and shift over to some of the companies that they should be regulating. Like this one. Novo Nordisk simultaneously failed 2 phase 3 clinical trials while using GLP-1s to treat Alzheimer's disease. Semaglutide, the active compound in both of their blockbuster weight loss drugs, Ozempic and Wegovy, did not significantly slow the progression of Alzheimer's disease compared to a placebo. But the absolute weirdest part, the secondary endpoints, the more mechanistic endpoints, suggested that it did. Let me explain. Glucagon-like peptide 1 or GLP-1 receptor agonists like semaglutide work by activating, you guessed it, GLP-1 receptors. These are found all over your body, mostly in the pancreas and, you guessed it, the brain. Activating these receptors in the brain reduces inflammation and improves insulin signaling, both of which are thought to be protective against Alzheimer's disease. Now, without getting too into the weeds, we know that Alzheimer's is caused by an overaccumulation of these plaque-forming tau proteins that prevent neurons from transferring signals properly. The biggest risk factor for tau buildup? You guessed it, inflammation. Now let's go one layer deeper. We know that semaglutide treats diabetes by targeting GLP-1 receptors in the pancreas and improving insulin signaling throughout the body. And there's an abundance of clinical data showing that GLP-1 receptor agonists reduce systemic inflammation and improve cardiovascular health through, you guessed it, your mom. These same pancreatic GLP-1 receptors. The theory was solid. If you can use semaglutide to reduce inflammation and improve insulin function in the pancreas, you can do it in the other organ that has a lot of GLP-1 receptors. So Novo Nordisk enrolled over 3,800 patients in a randomized, double-blind phase 3 trials. And they actually saw changes in biomarkers that suggested the drug was working. Things like reduced inflammation markers and improved metabolic function in the brain. But then they measured actual cognitive function with the industry standard method. They interviewed both the patient and their caretaker and scored the patient in 6 standardized categories, where the higher number means worsened Alzheimer's symptoms. And after 104 weeks, 2 whole years, there was no difference between the semaglutide group and the placebo group. Zero, zilch, nada, niente. Now, Novo are staying positive and they're committed to continually testing GLP-1s to try and treat Alzheimer's and dementia. Like, imagine the most popular and most mass-produced drug in the world could treat your diabetes, keep your brain healthy and make your memories last longer, and keep you thin. It's an obvious dub for most patients. But as of right now, there's nothing really to report. The situation makes a few things clear. First is that no matter how obvious a treatment seems or a mechanism seems, you always have to get clinical validation that will actually save human lives. You can see all of the biomarkers moving in the right direction as you'd like, but if it's not actually helping patients, it doesn't really matter all that much. And that's coming from the guy who made useless chemotherapies for like 6 years. Secondly, this is a wonderfully serendipitous wake-up call for the FDA's National Priority Voucher Program. In theory, the FDA could use preliminary biomarker data like this one to justify adding an approval express lane to any company that they're in cahoots with. Like, hey, the original data looks great, like, just go ahead, approve it, without doing their due diligence. But I'm sure it's fine, and I'm just overreacting. The FDA is still probably going to do their due diligence. There's enough people around to keep their ducks in a row, and they just gave vouchers to a bunch of GLP-1 manufacturers that haven't even finished phase 2 yet. Speaking of GLP-1s, they are the main reason that we have a new rich kid on the block. Eli Lilly, the company that makes the blockbuster GLP-1, Mounjaro, became the richest pharma company of all time by reaching a market cap of $1 trillion. Trillion. With a T. Forster's appetite. Really quickly, take a look at this chart of GDPs. There's a lot of rich countries on here. This line here, that's where Eli Lilly would be, above countries like Saudi Arabia and Switzerland. You know, one country that overpays washed footballers by like 10 times their value, and another that owns all the banks. Now, that's probably not too surprising. Looking at the top line of this graph, it's clear that Eli Lilly has been soaring in value for a few years now, way above other pharma giants like Johnson & Johnson, Merck, and Pfizer. So how did this happen? The main reason? Tirzepatide, the active component in their GLP-1 receptor agonists. Tirzepatide is formulated and sold under different brand names. Mounjaro for diabetes, and Zepbound for obesity. And despite lots of competition for GLP-1s, Eli Lilly has distinguished themselves very well. It's a dual-action agonist, meaning that it targets both GLP-1 receptors and GIP. They're pretty similar to GLP-1s, but they use a different pathway to regulate blood sugar and reduce food intake. Synergizing the effects of these two targets lets Zepbound reduce weight much more rapidly than their main competitor Wegovy. And there are additional benefits. Ongoing phase 2 and 3 trials suggest that Zepbound could reduce the risk of heart failure and improve chronic kidney disease. Ironically, Eli Lilly makes less revenue than most of their competitors. As you go to the right of this graph, companies have higher revenue. Way up here is Eli Lilly. Although it has less revenue, it has a much higher market cap. So although other companies are making more money, they are actually worth less. The company, the brand of Eli Lilly, is actually worth more than 10 times their value in sales. Now, this might sound kind of suspicious. How the hell did this happen? Part of it may be due to their company structure and strategy. They have around 47,000 employees. And although this still sounds like a big workforce, it is much smaller than J&J, Merck, and Pfizer, each of which have between 75,000 and 138,000 employees. Eli Lilly is focusing their workforce on scale-up in manufacturing, claiming they've made the largest investment in synthetic drug production in U.S. history. With GLP-1 demand so high, they're committed to making a lot of them, and a lot of them fast. Compare that to J&J, which is a massive company, have a massive workforce, and they're spread across a lot of different fields of healthcare, pharmaceuticals, medical devices, consumer health, baby oil, or Pfizer, who has always been a big player in the game, but has recently had to shift their priorities away from mRNA LNP vaccines, which were an obvious priority during the COVID times. Meanwhile, Eli Lilly is laser focused on a few key therapeutic areas, and it's paying off for them big time. And for them, it's probably a good idea to focus on the thing that they're already good at, keep a consistent brand. In fact, a large part of their valuation might be because they're expecting an oral version of their GLP-1s to be FDA approved pretty much any month now, which is something that a lot of experts and patients are really excited for because it's a much more convenient way to stay on top of their medication. But a rise this meteoric seems a little sus. I'm far from a financial expert, but I can't imagine that having a valuation 10 times more than your revenue is sustainable. Even more sus is they're quite involved with the whole national priority voucher situation. So the vibes are telling me there's a pretty even chance that they either keep their crown for a very long time or it comes crashing down in historical Humpty Dumpty fashion. But we'll have to see how it all plays out. There's a whole lot more pharma drama in the last few weeks, so let's rifle them off in a classic Matty speed round. After 20 years of developing and licensing drugs to other companies, Arrowhead finally received their first FDA approval for an RNA interference drug that helps to clear excess triglycerides from the blood. It happens through a single injection every 3 months, all while still in a very heated legal battle with Ionis Pharma over some patent infringements. Bayer got an accelerated FDA approval for their treatment for non-squamous, non-small cell lung cancer, after only needing preliminary phase 1, phase 2 trial data. Now, this was approved through a program set up by Dr. Pazdur's section of the FDA, which includes additional reviews by countries like Canada, Israel, and the UK. So we're going to give this one the benefit of the doubt, just for now. Regeneron did the unthinkable by getting not one, but 2 FDA approvals for their same drug, Eylea, in the same day.
Look out! Could have had him lined up and just missed him. It's a double Dion!
Eylea is now able to treat 2 different eye diseases that are somewhat related, after showing really promising efficacy and safety data. The biggest acquisition of the week goes to Abbott for acquiring Exact Sciences for a whopping $21 billion. Abbott now adds Exact Sciences' portfolio of non-invasive cancer screening devices to their already impressive repertoire of diabetes and cardiovascular diagnostic devices. And now for a Matty Minute, where we'll dive just a little bit deeper into a single story and keep it under a minute. Bidding wars are my favorite thing in pharma, other than groundbreaking new treatments, of course. Lundbeck is trying to interfere with Alkermes' acquisition of Avadel Pharmaceuticals. Avadel, the Ireland-based company with a promising new drug to treat narcolepsy, aka severe daytime sleepiness, was set for a buyout with Alkermes for around $20 per share. Rivaling company Lundbeck, who prioritizes neurology and psychiatric therapeutics, was being a bunch of shysters and made a deal for around $23 per share. This made Avadel all hot and bothered and ready to accept the deal. And Alkermes had just 5 days to counteroffer. Now, as of November 19th, Avadel agreed to an Alkermes deal for up to $2.37 billion. Basically, Lundbeck forced Alkermes to spend an extra $200 million for their new honey, a play likely inspired by Novo Nordisk last month. More on that story in my last video, which you can find here. And if you're interested in learning about any of the stories that we've talked about today, the links to all of those original articles are down in the description below. And if you'd like to leave a comment, let me know which one you think is the most dramatic. Please do. I'd love to know your thoughts. While you're down there, give this video a like so the algorithm knows to push this to other nerds who like to follow big drama and big pharma. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss next week's edition. But that's all for me today. Thank you so much for stopping by, and we'll see you later, nerds.